The Middle East, a region steeped in history, religion, and conflict. At the heart of this volatile region lies the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, a dispute that has captured global attention and claimed thousands of lives. Join us as we unpack this complex issue, delving into its historical roots, current realities, and potential paths towards a brighter future. To grasp the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, we must journey back in time. The modern-day conflict can be traced to the late 19th century, with the rise of Zionism and Palestinian national identity. The fall of the Ottoman Empire and British control further complicated the situation. The horrors of the Holocaust fueled the Zionist movement, setting the stage for a clash of aspirations and identities. The year 1948 was pivotal, marking the independence of Israel and the Nakba for Palestinians. Over 700,000 Palestinians became refugees, a core issue in the conflict today. The war solidified Palestinian displacement and created a refugee crisis. The events of 1948 reshaped the region, leaving the Palestinian quest for self-determination unfulfilled. The decades following 1948 saw wars and uprisings deepening the conflict. The 1967 Six-Day War resulted in Israel capturing key territories, further entrenching Palestinian displacement. The First Intifada in the 1980s highlighted the human cost of the conflict and the plight of Palestinians under occupation. The early 1990s brought hope with the Oslo Accords, aiming for a two-state solution. However, the process faltered due to settlement expansion, violence, and mistrust. The collapse of the Oslo process led to the Second Intifada, plunging the region back into violence. The conflict remains intractable, with each side entrenched in their narratives. For Israelis, it's about survival and securing their homeland. For Palestinians, it's about justice and ending the occupation. Bridging this divide requires empathy, understanding, and a willingness to move beyond entrenched positions. To understand the conflict today, we must examine the realities on the ground. Israeli settlements in the West Bank are a major obstacle to peace, fragmenting the territory and restricting Palestinian movement. The separation barrier symbolizes the divide, making peaceful coexistence increasingly difficult. Gaza faces a dire situation under Hamas rule and an Israeli blockade. Chronic shortages of essential goods and a collapsing healthcare system have led to widespread poverty and suffering. The international community calls for an end to the blockade, but a lasting solution remains elusive. A new generation has come of age, inheriting the legacy of conflict. Young Israelis and Palestinians face unique challenges, navigating history and a rapidly changing world. Among Israelis, there's concern about the occupation's sustainability. Among Palestinians, frustration with their leadership. This generation holds the key to the future, but without a shift in conflict dynamics, the cycle of violence may continue. The Israeli-Palestinian conflict now navigates a changing regional landscape. New alliances and the rise of Iran have shifted priorities and introduced new complexities. The fight against terrorism has forced unlikely alliances, reshaping regional dynamics. The international community grapples with multiple crises, potentially diminishing the urgency for a resolution. The Abraham Accords in 2020 saw Israel normalize relations with several Arab states. These accords, driven by shared interests, signaled a potential realignment of regional alliances. The impact on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict remains to be seen, with some viewing it as a way to circumvent the Palestinian issue. The Palestinian leadership condemned the accords, feeling sidelined and betrayed. While the geopolitical landscape shifts around them, both Israelis and Palestinians face their own internal political challenges, further complicating the path to peace. In Israel, the political scene has become increasingly polarized, with right-wing and religious parties gaining ground. The peace camp, once a powerful force advocating for a negotiated settlement, has shrunk, replaced by a sense of pessimism and a belief that the Palestinians are not genuine partners for peace. The Palestinian political landscape is equally fractured, divided between the Fatah-dominated Palestinian Authority in the West Bank and the Hamas-controlled Gaza Strip. This internal division, a legacy of the failed 2006 elections and subsequent Hamas takeover of Gaza, has weakened the Palestinian position and hampered efforts to present a united front in negotiations with Israel. The Palestinian Authority, plagued by accusations of corruption and authoritarianism, has seen its legitimacy erode in the eyes of many Palestinians. Hamas, despite its control of Gaza, remains isolated internationally due to its designation as a terrorist organization by many countries. This internal division, coupled with the lack of a clear successor to aging Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas, raises concerns about a potential power vacuum and further instability. In this environment of political fragmentation and mistrust, finding a path to peace becomes even more challenging. The lack of strong and credible leadership on both sides, coupled with the deep divisions within each society, makes it difficult to build consensus around a negotiated solution. The risk of further escalation and violence remains high, perpetuating the cycle of conflict and suffering. The Israeli-Palestinian conflict, though geographically concentrated in a relatively small area, casts a long shadow across the globe. Its impact reverberates far beyond the borders of Israel and the Palestinian territories, influencing international relations, fueling geopolitical tensions, and shaping global perceptions of the Middle East. This conflict, with its complex history and enduring grievances, has become a touchstone issue in international affairs, often serving as a proxy for broader ideological battles and strategic rivalries. The conflict's global reach is evident in the diplomatic maneuvering and political posturing it elicits from world powers. The United States, long considered Israel's closest ally, has invested considerable diplomatic capital in seeking a resolution, albeit with limited success. European nations, while generally more sympathetic to the Palestinian cause, have also struggled to exert meaningful influence on the parties. The conflict has also become a source of tension within international organizations, particularly the United Nations. The UN's various resolutions and pronouncements on the conflict, often critical of Israel's actions, have been met with accusations of bias from Israel and its supporters, while Palestinians have expressed frustration at the lack of enforcement mechanisms to implement these resolutions. This dynamic has eroded trust in the UN's impartiality and hampered its ability to play a constructive role in mediating a solution. Furthermore, the conflict has fueled anti-Semitism and Islamophobia in various parts of the world. Extremist groups have exploited the conflict to incite hatred and violence, targeting Jewish and Muslim communities and exacerbating existing societal tensions. This dangerous trend underscores the global repercussions of the conflict, highlighting the need to address not only its political and territorial dimensions, but also its impact on interfaith relations and social cohesion. Section 2. The Battle for Hearts and Minds, Public Opinion, and the Media. Beyond the realm of diplomacy and international institutions, the Israeli-Palestinian conflict is also waged in the court of public opinion. Both sides have sought to garner international support for their narratives, utilizing media platforms, advocacy groups, and cultural diplomacy to sway global perceptions. The media plays a crucial role in shaping public understanding of the conflict, but its coverage has often been criticized for bias, inaccuracy, and a tendency to simplify complex issues. The use of graphic imagery, particularly in conflict situations, has fueled emotional responses and reinforced existing prejudices. The rise of social media has further complicated the information landscape, with both sides utilizing online platforms to disseminate their narratives, often bypassing traditional media outlets. Advocacy groups, representing both Israeli and Palestinian perspectives, have also played a significant role in shaping public opinion. These groups, often with strong ideological leanings, have utilized a variety of tactics, including lobbying, public demonstrations, and online campaigns, to promote their agendas and influence policy decisions. The battle for hearts and minds is crucial, as public opinion can exert pressure on governments to take action or refrain from certain policies. However, the highly polarized nature of the debate, often fueled by misinformation and emotional appeals, makes it challenging to foster nuanced understanding and promote constructive dialogue. Section 3. Navigating the labyrinth, international law and the search for a just peace. The search for a just and lasting peace in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict is linked to international law principles. The international community, through various UN resolutions, has established a framework for a two-state solution based on pre-1967 borders with land swaps, a shared capital in Jerusalem, and a resolution to the refugee issue. However, translating these principles into a concrete agreement has proven arduous. The complexities of the conflict, compounded by decades of mistrust and violence, have created obstacles. Moreover, the interpretation and application of international law have been subject to differing interpretations. The International Court of Justice has issued several advisory opinions, most notably its 2004 ruling on the legality of the separation barrier built by Israel in the West Bank. The ICJ found that the construction of the barrier within occupied Palestinian territory violated international law and called for its dismantling. However, Israel disputed the court's jurisdiction and refused to abide by the ruling. Despite the challenges, international law remains a crucial framework for resolving the conflict. It provides a set of shared principles and legal norms that can serve as a basis for negotiations and a roadmap for a just and sustainable peace. Section 1. A legacy of loss, a hope for peace. As we've journeyed through the tangled history of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, one thing remains undeniably clear. This enduring struggle has left an indelible mark on the lives of millions. Generations have been touched by violence, displacement, and the deep wounds of mistrust. The human cost of this conflict is immeasurable, a sobering reminder of the fragility of peace and the devastating consequences of unresolved disputes. We've witnessed the pain of families torn apart, of lives cut short, and of dreams shattered amidst the rubble of conflict. We've also seen the resilience of the human spirit, the unwavering hope for a better future that persists even in the darkest of times. From the ashes of war and the despair of displacement, stories of courage, compassion, and coexistence emerge, reminding us that even amidst the most intractable conflicts, the human capacity for empathy and understanding can prevail. Peace activists on both sides, risking their lives and reputations to build bridges of understanding, offer a glimmer of hope in a seemingly hopeless situation. The path ahead remains uncertain, fraught with challenges that have tested the resolve of even the most seasoned diplomats and peacemakers. The weight of history, the entrenched narratives, and the absence of trust create formidable obstacles to a lasting resolution. Yet the pursuit of peace, however elusive, remains the only moral imperative. The alternative, a perpetual cycle of violence and suffering, is simply unacceptable. The international community, bearing witness to the human cost of this conflict, has a moral obligation to remain engaged, to support initiatives that promote dialogue and reconciliation, and to hold all parties accountable for their actions. Section 2. Towards a shared future. Charting a path forward. Finding a path to a just and lasting peace in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict requires a fundamental shift in mindset, a departure from the zero-sum mentality that has fueled the conflict for far too long. It necessitates a recognition that true security and prosperity for one cannot come at the expense of the other, that a shared future can only be built on a foundation of mutual respect, empathy, and a willingness to compromise. The two-state solution, while facing significant challenges, remains the most viable framework for achieving a sustainable peace. This requires a clear commitment from both sides to ending the occupation, establishing a viable and contiguous Palestinian state alongside Israel, and resolving the core issues of Jerusalem, refugees, and security. Achieving this vision will require bold leadership, a willingness to make difficult choices, and a commitment to dialogue and reconciliation. It also necessitates addressing the root causes of the conflict, tackling issues of inequality, injustice, and discrimination. Investing in education, promoting economic opportunity, and fostering cross-cultural understanding are crucial steps towards peace. The international community has a vital role to play in supporting these efforts, providing financial assistance, facilitating dialogue, and holding all parties accountable. Civil society organizations, with their grassroots connections and commitment to peace building, are also essential partners in this endeavor. The road to peace is long and arduous, but the pursuit of a shared future, free from violence and oppression, is a moral imperative. It is time for a new chapter in this enduring conflict, one defined by hope, reconciliation, and a shared commitment to building a better future for generations to come.